we're not having any technical problems. Sophie is cheering for me, for my
Yeah, I think
skills.
we're live on Twitch now.
Yeah, I think we're live. Yeah, I can hear the echo. Oh, there we are.
Just turned it off,
Let
the
me just.
sound.
Okay, and yep, I have it. And let's see how about YouTube.
Yeah, we're not having any
Oh, also on
technical.
YouTube, and I just turned
Yes.
the sound there.
Okay, and let me just click on live, and I think we will be ready to start. There we go. Perfect. So hello everybody. How's everybody doing? We are doing great here. Sophie is having a great time in Norway.
Yeah.
So how have you tried the Benoni? You said that you've been playing a little. By the way.
Yeah, but I didn't get to try it at the chess club I went to because they all played e4. But
Oh.
it's been okay. But yeah, but it's going nice in online chess. I'm staying above the 2000, so that's good.
Great.
Yeah, and I really like when I get to play it. But only sometimes I can't really get to play it because they don't play c4; they just play d4. So maybe
That's
can
when
you
you're
play?
going to play the Nimzo.
Perfect. Because right now I'm just waiting for them to play c4. So I'll just like play c4, play c4, and then maybe they won't, and then I don't really know what I'm doing because it's not the same
Structure
uh,
what you are getting.
no,
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 but
exactly.
now you learn a different structure. So you're going to have this great repertoire, this lifetime repertoire, these classical positions, because the Nimzo is a classical opening that you can play for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's very sound also. It's very sound for black, and the positions are very solid. You can also play for a win. It's basically these openings that every player has to know how to play, because the pawn structure, the ideas, you're going to like it, I think. I've only played it a few times myself, and I like it also. Yeah, I think it's very nice. So,
maybe people be so skeptical as some were about the Benoni.
okay, well, you can try if you like it. No,
Yeah.
it's a lot about skills there.
Yeah.
You know how to handle the positions, and I think you need to play some games to get it all sorted out, and pass through everything, suffer a bit, and then be happy for a little while. And the Benoni. Okay.
Yeah, but I really like the Benoni.
Sorry?
I really like the Benoni. But
Yeah,
just we had a few critics in the chat when we were
for sure, yes. Not everybody likes the Benoni. It's for sure. All that matters is that you like it and it's good for you.
Yeah.
The positions are suitable to you, so I think you'll do great with it probably. So let's see this game that we have today. What we are going to do actually in this series is that we are going to see one game for each line, let's say. So we're going to see various games. This series is probably going to take longer than the Benoni, and we are going to look a little bit at the theory, see some recommendations, see some plans, but also we are going to look at the game and study the middle game, study some strategy. We're going to see some tactics as well. We're going to see a little bit of everything here.
Perfect.
Okay, so let's see how we start this now. D4.
Yeah.
And here we go knight f6. And they go c4, and here is where we go e6. And knight c3. Okay, and on knight c3 we go bishop b4. In which situation you are going to play the Nimzo? Well, because you play the Benoni against d4, but you can still play the Benoni, but you start with the Nimzo move order.
Yeah.
That's the trick. You start with knight f6 and d6, and then you can play c5 still.
And it's nice to have a few options.
Yeah, and besides you can choose against which lines you want to play the Benoni, right? whether they play knight c3 or knight f3, you're going to choose. Against some, you play knight c5, and then you play the Nimzo. So here, after bishop b4, white has many options. There is queen c2, which is the Capablanca variation. This is very popular, it's very solid. And the idea of queen c2 is to take back on c3 with the queen. No, white doesn't want to double the pawns on the c file. And, oops, sorry about that. He wants to take back with the queen and avoid the bad structure. There is also f3. Just to... what happened here? Something happened to my file, so please excuse me a second. I'll have to reload it. So let's go back here. Bishop b4. Can you still see the position, Sophie, by the way?
Bishop b4 just
Yes?
being played.
Okay. So here queen c2 was something that white could play, and then there's f3.
Yeah.
And then there is knight f3. And then there is a3.
Okay.
We're going to see all of them. We're going to take them one by one, slowly. And today we are going to start with none of those, but with e3, which is another popular line. This is the Rubinstein variation. And against e3, we are going to castle. Well, and after castle, white has options again. We are going to see both. Today we are going to look at knight e2, which is very popular nowadays. And, well, instead of knight e2, there's also bishop d3. And the idea is to then develop the knight. White is going to see how. He can develop it via f3, and then he can also develop via e2.
Yeah.
And here we'll play d5, and we're going to see the lines. Knight f3, knight e2, and pawn takes d5. So, let's go back to our knight e2, and let's focus on this one today, and see what we do against this. But what we do against knight e2 is d5. Did you ever have a pawn on d5, Sophie?
Yeah.
In your line. So did you used to play like d5 against d4?
No, I actually didn't, but it's not the same. But when I play the Sicilian, it's different because there's a pawn on e4. But then I often try to go for d5.
Oh yeah, but against, I was wondering if against the queen's pawn, if you ever played.
No, maybe in my very early chess years, but not within the last
not
4 or
late.
5 years. Not lately, no.
Well, we're going to put a pawn on d5 again.
Yeah.
So here,
Well,
it looks good. We fight for the center, no? d5. And we're going to see what white's idea is with knight e2 in a moment, because for now it might look awkward to have the knight on e2 in front of the bishop.
Yeah.
Here they go a3. And as you can see now, the knight is defending c3. So we are not going to take that knight anymore. They take with the knight back. But here we have two options. In this game we are going to see bishop e7.
Okay.
But bishop d6 is also very interesting and can be played. So let's start with this and see what white can do here. The idea of bishop d6 is that if they play c5,
Yeah.
in this case we are going to play bishop e7. Looks like we are wasting a move, but we are not. We've actually forced white to play c5, and now we will be able to undermine the pawn chain. We will be able to attack it with b6 in the future. Let me see my skills of drawing arrows. So we want to play b6 and attack this pawn chain.
That makes sense.
Now white usually goes knight g3, develop the pieces, and b6. I think this is easy to play, no? Makes a lot of sense.
White plays. By the way, I am the student. Somebody just asked. I am the student at Raluca as the coach. What if white goes for b4?
Yeah, white goes b4, and what would you play here? Let's see if
a5.
you see already. You already know the Nimzo. So yeah, pretty easy to play. No, everything is normal. Can you still hear me, Sophie? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I hear you.
You broke down for a second, so I was worried. Okay, so here they go bishop d2 because, well, our threat is to take on b4 with the pawn, and then the rook on a1 will be hanging.
Yeah.
So bishop d2, defend the rook. And now our idea is to get the pieces out. How do we get the pieces out? We need to get the knight out. We want to play knight to d7. And we'd also like to trade this bishop on a6, because this is our bad bishop, it's not doing anything, and this is white's good bishop. See how all the white pawns are on dark squares. So here we are going to go bishop a6 and try to trade that bishop. But when we do that, we have to be careful not to allow c6, no? With knight d7, c6, and if bishop a6, b5, we don't want that. So first thing we do is play c6.
Okay.
Bishop e2, and now we can go bishop a6.
Yeah.
So here they castle. Now we take on e2. Here white can take either way. They can take with the queen or either knights. And here we are following a game between Caruana and Lenier Dominguez. And Caruana here captured with the g knight. And our ideas are always the same. So we want to get the knight out, knight to d7, queen c2, we develop the queen, and here what are we going to play for?
I guess e5?
Correct. We are going to play for e5 in the future. They went rook c1, takes once on b4, and now very important, we don't want to take another pawn, we don't want to take on c5, because we would open the b file and then white could have some counterplay along this file.
Okay.
We don't do this, but we wait. We keep the pawn on b6, and maybe at some point we are going to take, but for now, queen b7. We simply want to have the a file under control, be able to fight for it if needed. White goes f3. Their plan is to continue with e4 in these positions. And we go rook e8. And we are going to also fight for the center. We need to have the pieces well placed first. When we are going to play e5, we want a rook on e8. Bishop e1, they want to stop us. Bishop g3 is coming. But we are just in time, no?
Yeah.
Now we play e5. And the point is to create a second weakness. We want to create a weakness on d4 that we will attack later on. Bishop g3. We take here. Pawn takes. And what do we play now? Let's try to find some moves here. Try to find a plan. So someone is saying very suspicious. I wonder about what? This opening? Because it does have a very good reputation. Eh?
Not as suspicious as...
The Benoni.
Even though we like the Benoni.
Even though we like it, yes.
And I would be happy to take suggestions from the chat, because I'm not familiar with these types of positions. I do have ideas.
Let's hear them, Sophie.
I'm thinking about, and see if I can draw some arrows. I kind of want to open up for my rook here. So, and also this bishop is not very useful right here. Maybe if I want to take on c5, but I don't really like it too much here because it's blocking the rook. So I was thinking about either playing something like bishop d8 to c7, try to exchange this bishop.
Okay.
It might be a little bit slow. Otherwise, maybe going for something like knight h5, trying to kick away the bishop from this diagonal. But my knight doesn't really have any good squares from there. So maybe I want to just even put my bishop back on f8. Yeah, but my idea is I just want to open up the rook on e8 somehow.
Yeah, but also, okay, we were talking about weaknesses. I see there's a suggestion about h5.
So, yeah. Oh, h5. Maybe I want to have my bishop on f6 then.
Yeah, you do want to have the bishop on that diagonal. I don't know about f6 because what are you going to do with the knight? On f6, I mean. Where is the knight going?
On f6?
The knight from f6, where
Yeah.
is it going to go if you put the bishop on f6?
Then it has to go to h5, but then I'm not sure it's going to be very vulnerable there. So maybe.
Well, remember that these positions are quite solid and nothing is immediate is happening, so you can maneuver
So we could
around.
bring the king to h8 to play the knight backwards. Or maybe
Very
g6.
suspicious, no?
Maybe playing g6 and then the knight could go to g6, g7 at some point.
Well, here what you could do is put the bishop on g7 if you want.
Yeah.
So we could do this and bring the bishop here. Now we are kind of pointing at d4. And what else? There's another piece that could be brought towards the center to attacking d4.
So then we should place a knight on f5 or
This knight from d7 actually in many cases goes to f8 and to e6. And you're going to see this idea over and over again in this line. Bringing the knight to e6. That's a very nice square for the knight, controls the center, attacks d4.
Yeah.
Well, and we have good play here.
Somebody asked in the chat if the Nimzo-Indian, oh, there's getting a lot of light in here, I can see.
I can see you look at
can be as dynamic as the Benoni.
This game is actually very short and very dynamic, so it can be. It's true that it's solid. It's a solid opening. Probably the Benoni is... You get more dynamic lines there, but you can switch between the two, no? Whenever you feel like having a solid game, you can play this.
Yeah. Sometimes you feel like that.
So here, g6 with bishop, g6, bishop f8 and bishop g7 can be done, and then bring the knight to e6. We can also first play b5, just to close the position and then do the same. And what black did here is knight f8 directly, which is also possible, and bring the knight to e6. So now white goes knight f4. And this was a rapid game, if I remember correctly. Here black played h6. So, well, now bishop f8 is difficult to get. Bishop f2, and now we see that he plays b5 to close the queen side, and he will play on in the center and attack the weaknesses. And there are some interesting ideas here after rook a8, rook e1. Here he played rook e8, but there are some other moves that seem more natural. For example, if I want to get my knight to e6, then I could go bishop d8, and this idea that you were mentioning before with bishop c7 looks much better now without a bishop on g3, right?
Yeah.
And then you can play knight to e6. Another thing that you can do here is to play this move, knight e8, with a very nice idea as well, that we want to put the bishop on f6.
Yeah.
And then this knight is getting to e6 via c7. Yeah. So our pieces are getting there in the end. Okay, so this was...
is 5 completely stupid?
I'm sorry, what? Which one?
In like the move, instead of playing knight e8, is it possible to play g5?
I think g5 is too weakening here.
Yeah. Just to be able to put the knight on e6.
For some reason for some reason it doesn't allow me to play g5. I don't know why.
Okay.
I don't know if it's because it's it doesn't like it or something wrong here. But g5 looks a bit weakening. Let me see. It's probably something like you are leaving the square f5, no? If you play g5.
Yes.
I don't really like giving up these light squares here. So
yeah.
Something like 92, knight g3. I can think about doing something like that. Put a knight on f5. And I think it's going to be very difficult for you now with black.
Probably.
I don't think you need to do that. No, here we play solid.
Yeah, I'm still in my Benoni mindset.
It's okay. We're going to have time to switch to the Nimzo. So here, let's see. Bishop d6, c5. We saw what happens, and knight g3 is the other move that can be played.
Yeah.
But here, after knight g3, we can try to prove that the knight on g3 is not doing much and is a bit awkward, and we can play with c6 now. And what we have now is like a semi-Slav, where the knight on g3 is not belonging. The knight should be on f3 to control the center. On g3 it doesn't really cooperate. Well, we'll see what white's idea is here. So c6 is one way to go, and we're going to see that c5 is also possible in this position. Let's take them one by one. So c6, and here bishop d3, and many times white wants to play for the center with f3 and e4, but in this case they don't make it, because after bishop d3 we take on c4, we gain a tempo here.
Yeah.
This is quite typical also, no? Whenever they move the bishop, we want to take on c4, and again you are playing for e5, so here knight d7, and e5 is coming next. And e5, no? And so already here black is doing well.
Okay.
For example, if they take on e5, we want to take with the knight, and while we're attacking the bishop and continue arranging our pieces, queen c7 or queen e7, get the bishop out, and so on. So here what white does is play bishop a2. They make a useful move, and they are inviting us to capture on d4. And when we capture on d4, they want to take back with the e-pawn and have an isolated pawn, but try to get a good version of the isolated pawn, because we are not yet ready to hold d5. We don't really have a good grip over d5. We only have the knight attacking. So here we don't have to hurry, but we can play knight b6 first. Knight b6, we control d5 now, and we are ready to take on d4. And after taking on d4, if they still take with the pawn, we want to play rook e8, and then bishop e6, trade this bishop, and put a knight on d5.
On d5.
On d5, yeah, and that's going to be a very good position for us. Yeah. So now they take on e5, bishop takes, and here queen c2, and white's ideas are to continue with e4 and followed by f4. Question.
Yeah.
What if white plays e4 directly here? How should we continue in this case?
That's a good question.
How would you continue then? And everybody in the chat, how would you guys play here?
Maybe the chat. Some Nimzo players in the chat, maybe? Let's just...
Okay, here I think you have various good moves. Just yeah, this is, remember, that's a solid position. Nothing immediate is happening. It's not like sometimes in the Benoni where you needed to find, you know, the move that gives you counterplay, the move that gets you a dynamic position. Don't fall into bad. Here you are doing fine, and you just need to
slowly improve.
Yeah, find something.
Okay, then maybe I should get out my bishop on c8. I don't have a whole lot of options. If I put it on g4,
Yeah.
my opponent will probably, oh, maybe that's okay. I'm thinking about like bishop g4, and then if he plays f3, I might be able to give a check here, and then go. Like either way, it seems like the bishop will end up on d7.
Quite passive, no?
Yes, a little bit.
I think e6, you mean bishop e6, right? I think bishop e6 is a suggestion here. In this position.
Just think it's the pawn not going to. Oh, I can see e6. Bishop e6, isn't the pawn going to be pretty weak when I take back?
If you take back, queen b3 is coming, no?
Yeah.
But bishop e6 is not that bad an idea. I mean, here we can make it work, but first we have to trade queens. Queen takes d1.
Okay.
Also here, trading queens, something that we have to notice in this position. We have the majority on the queen side, right? We have 3 pawns here versus 2, and white has the majority on the king side. The queen side majority is usually better in endgames, so trading queens and heading towards the endgame is usually good for us with the black pieces. Okay. So it kind of makes sense to trade queens and try to play for our advantage. And after rook d1, here bishop e6 is actually very strong. If bishop e6 was the suggestion, then here it works really well. And we are giving up the structure, it's true. We are going to take with the f-pawn, and that could be a weakness, but white is not going to be able to attack it that easily. And we're also trading white's best piece, because the bishop on a2 is one of the pieces that's very annoying in these lines, pointing at f7 all the time. We want to trade it, and if bishop takes, let me see if it works now. Yes, I fixed it. Pawn takes, and this position is fine for black, because the pawn on e6 is controlling the center, is also holding white's 4 pawns on the king side, and we are ready to play rook d8, improve our pieces.
Somebody, Miguel, chat suggested something that I was also briefly looking at. Could it make sense to capture in c3 just to ruin white's pawn structure, or is the bishop too good a piece?
Well, here he also wanted to play rook e8 and bishop e6 and trade the bishop. I think bishop e6 directly can still be played, and this position also looks good for black. Maybe we can get some knight a4 in at some point. Attack this pawn. We'll have to be careful with the pawn on b7 once we trade the bishop, because rook b1 and white might want to trade one weakness for the other. But okay, if we play this correctly, it should also work.
Oh, can you update something on?
Sorry.
Like
there
that.
we go. Bishop takes and pawn takes. Yeah, this way you can also play it, and bishop e6 here.
Okay, yeah, so that white doesn't have the bishop pair.
Yeah, bishop e6 directly. But I don't know, I feel like we can leave the pawn on c2 and play for knight a4 still, like in this position after bishop e6. We have something similar, and the knight can go to c4 here, no?
Yeah.
In this case, and play against the pawn on b2. This is not going to be easy for white either.
No.
Because the knight on c3 is kind of pinned to the defense of this pawn and to the defense of this pawn on e4. I like my bishop on e5 for now.
Yeah.
If they want to play f4 and weaken some more, then I can consider taking on c3. Okay, so let's go back to our line, which was here queen c2. So white wants to play e4 and f4, and now we play queen e7, preparing bishop e6. And let's say e4. We go ahead. Now, what if they play f4?
I was just thinking about it. Can we just put it on d4 and give a check and then take the bishop?
Of course, yeah, sure, we can do that. But don't we have anything better here?
Yes. Oh, we win a pawn maybe. Not sure if it's good, but we could consider. No, just gonna could maybe take here and take here, and then they might be hanging in the center, but I'm not so sure if
they
it's
take
good.
with the queen, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, if they take with the queen, definitely hanging on e4. So let's see.
Better.
No, this was enough, no? Bishop takes c3.
Is this? Oh, okay. Because if they take with the pawn?
Yeah, they have to take with the pawn, and then we take on a2.
Okay.
And we still like this position, right?
And then we have queen c5.
Queen c5, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So let's say rook a2, queen c5. And play for the square c4.
Yeah.
Rook d8. I think I can put anything on c4. I like also queen c4 as an idea here. Because I might want my knight on a4 to hit on c3. Very nice position for black still. Not the dynamic positions from the Benoni, but very nice positional advantage for black there.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they go knight e2, and they are preparing f4. Now there is no bishop c3. Okay. Rook e8. And we want to play bishop c7 in case they go f4. That's okay. f3, they play also here. In case of f3, we want to play rook to d8 and take that bishop on a2. Rook a2, this was a game, and here queen e6. And well, we're going to double on the d file. Sorry?
Was this the game?
This was a game, yes, that
was
played
between Tawana and
No, I don't remember the players. They were quite strong players, I think, around 2400, but I haven't kept the names here. Just a normal position, no? Rook d7, rook d8 next, and keep going. All right, so this was bishop d6. Yeah, we saw all the ideas here. And then there's also bishop e7 in this position. Just go directly on e7, and you're going to see that they are similar in some lines. Okay, here white again has choices, of course. The game was c takes d5, so I'm going to leave this for last. C takes d5. There's also knight f4, just to improve the knight. And here again, we can try to prove that the knight on f4 is a bit awkward and go for the semi-Slav setup. And on bishop d3, okay, but now our bishop on e7 is not on the best square either. Usually we like this diagonal for the bishop. Hold on. So we have to go bishop, well, we can go bishop d6 here, improve the bishop. And the same idea of taking on c4 and playing for e5 applies here. Knight d7, and we're going to get e5. Another thing that white can do, if we go back to this position, is knight to g3. Okay, on knight g3, here we can go for c5.
Okay.
Let's see some ideas. White has two captures now. They can take on c5 or they can take on d5. If they take on d5, we are going to take on d4 first. We attack the knight. And our idea is that if they take with the queen, then I'm going to take with the pawn, but my knight is coming out with tempo on c6. The knight comes with tempo, and I'm going to play d4, which is my main idea when I have positions with an isolated pawn. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. The other line is to take on c5. And here what we do is take on c4. They go queen c2. And knight to d7. And we want to take that pawn with a piece. Either piece, but taking with the knight makes quite a lot of sense. And castle, and this position is equal, but white could have some slight problems because they are his knights are not on the greatest squares. This knight on g3 is a bit awkward, and then this knight on c3 can become awkward in some situations. For example, if I go a6, b5, b4 is going to come with tempo, and if they move the pawn from b2, then the knight is going to be awkward on the c file. It's not going to be so stable. And here, well, for example, this is a game of Adams with black. He played a6. White goes b4, the knight goes back, and now b5. Now we also get the bishop out, and we prepare to put a rook on c8.
We want to put the bishop on b7 here, right?
Yeah, this is our next move. Bishop e2 and bishop b7. And we already see that it feels slightly more comfortable for black because we can find ideas quickly. If I put my rook on c8, well, first of all, this knight on c3, but then these squares that are weak are easier for me with black to use. If I play a knight on b6, I already threaten to get there. The game was rook d1, just rook c8, queen b3. Okay, now this pin on the d file is quite annoying.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you play here if it's annoying?
If it's annoying, I would probably move the queen, but not sure where to. Probably b6.
Queen b6.
I like
No?
both. Yeah.
Yeah, queen b6 makes sense.
So she's not blocking our other rook.
And now we can rearrange our pieces. This is very nice how black played it. Rook d2. And look, bishop c6.
Yeah.
Bishop c6, and he wants to follow up with queen b7. And then the knight goes to b6.
Yeah.
Here, queen to b7, we attack g2, he went e4, and here knight b6, again with a nice position for black. The d file is well controlled for black. No, there is no entry square. Well, the rooks are very pretty on the d file, but not threatening anything, at least for now.
No, and the knights and the bishop and c6 are really protecting d7 also.
Yeah, my knight is ready to go to c4 at some point.
Yeah.
White played f3, and now this queen b8 is also very instructive because we want to control the dark squares. Queen b7, control e5, control f4. And okay, keep going. For example, one idea that I could play for is maybe h5, h4. Looks very interesting.
That's good. Yeah, that's also moving some kingside pawns.
Yeah, right. But the knight on g3 is awkward, so h5, h4 is many times seen.
Yeah.
In these positions. So I could think about that, and of course fighting for these squares in the future. Okay, so let's go back to the game. I remember that I still needed to show you one idea here and that I think I forgot to. Right? When they played on this line a3, after bishop e7 we saw this, and on bishop d6 I told you that we can play c5, but never showed it, no? Never showed you the line with c5.
No, I thought you meant right. But no, we didn't talk about this.
I just mentioned it, but I forgot to show you. So I'm sorry about that. If we can also play c5. We saw this idea with c6 and play for the semi-Slav type of structure. But if you want to play with an isolated pawn, c5 can also be done. I think you might like these positions. D takes c5. We want to take with the bishop, and here when they go b4, our bishop goes on e7, and the thing is that they are not really ready to meet d4. We are going to get a very good side of the isolated pawn.
They are not ready to what?
To get a grip on d4, because in the isolated pawn positions, it's very important to get control over the square in front of the pawn.
Yeah.
The main idea is to push the pawn and open the position. So here you see the knight on g3. If the knight was on f3, that would be great, because with the knight on f3, we control d4, and then the bishop on b2, and okay, we're not going to have d4. But here is a good version of the isolated pawn.
I can tell that you really don't like the knight on g3.
No, we really don't like the knight on g3. We'll see what the idea of the knight on g3 is in some lines, but it can be, you know, many times it happens this with the pieces, that they have an idea, but if you don't get there, then the piece will be on a bad square, and we can use it to our advantage.
Yeah.
So here, let's say that white plays bishop b2. We're going to see what happens if they take, but on bishop b2 here already we can take on c4, and on bishop takes, we take here and develop the pieces. Knight to d7, and idea to play knight b6. Knight b6, the bishop comes out to d7, the rook to c8. We're going to play again for the square c4.
Yeah, so c4 is important.
Yes, because when they play b4, it's
of course,
square. Of course, when they play b4. Yeah, in many positions, knight on c4 is strong. This was a game also in '94, also Caruana Dominguez. So here, knight takes and knight b6, and this game was a draw. Bishop d7, bishop c6. No problems for black at all, no?
No, it looks
easily equalizing.
Yeah.
a6 and bring the rooks to the center. Okay, but the big question is what happens if they take on d5 and they get us the isolated pawn. So this is a moment where we are going to stop and try to find the best capture for black here. What do we take with? Big moment.
If we don't want the, can we? No, we cannot avoid it.
Avoid what? Sorry.
We cannot avoid getting an isolated pawn.
No, of course not. We cannot avoid that, but we can choose what type of position we are going to get after we take.
Yeah, what pieces we want to get rid of.
Yeah, how we want them afterwards. No? Since we want to play d4, that's basically what we need to look at here. How are we going to play d4 in good conditions and try to stop our opponent from getting a piece there, which would be the best way to do that.
Then maybe it would make sense to take with the knight, so we can exchange a pair of knights, and then I could put maybe I could put the bishop on f6 to protect e5, and also threaten the rook on a1. But I'm not entirely sure if it's the best way to capture.
Yes, no, you are right, because you want to play bishop f6 and then everything is falling into place.
Yeah.
Let me show you why, because if you take with the e pawn, you can also do this. But here, bishop d3, we cannot play d4 yet, because there's a discovered check in the end with bishop h7.
Yeah, a shame.
So we have to go knight c6, and here knight e2, and it seems like white is almost there, no?
Yeah.
We cannot play d4 yet, and on bishop d6, bishop b2. And I'm still not playing d4. It's true that it's not a bad position. I mean, here you have bishop e5, and this is still a very playable position for black. But in the other line, when we play knight takes d5, everything is easier. After knight takes d5, knight takes, and here we take with the queen, and yes, bishop f6 and d4 is going to happen. Let me show you. Pawn takes. Okay, bishop b2. We don't have bishop f6, so what do we do?
We play knight c6.
Oh, if you play knight c6, don't I have b5?
Yes. I guess you do.
Well, knight a5, but I think it's a bit annoying to drive you away from.
Yeah. We could put the other bishop on e6 to protect the pawn, or we could maybe we could play no.
What other move do we have here? Come on, Sophie, you can do this.
A5?
a5, yes. So, a5 you said, yeah?
Yeah, a5.
a5, yes. a5 looks really good here. Because if they go b5, well, they've weakened the position, right? And then I don't have to get my knight on c6 anymore, but my knight can come out on d7.
Yeah.
And you go to
Yeah.
c5 immediately. So let's say you play bishop e6 first to get the bishop out, and then you have knight d7 and knight c5. And if they take on a5,
then we take back.
well, we can go knight c6. No, let's make this
Okay, we can do that first.
like that, because that's why one of the reasons we played a5 was also to do something about the knight, and we can take on a5 back with the knight, and our knight is going to be more active.
Yeah.
Also, there's another idea behind knight c6, that here on bishop e2, which looks like a normal move, what can we play?
Can we? Maybe we could take an a5 with the knight, and then if white castles, there might be something like knight to b3 and then to d2, but
And things with the a pawn, no? That's what you're trying to get.
yeah.
a3 pawn. Well, here you for sure can take on a5. That's the one thing you can certainly do. But
put it on c4 afterwards.
Or put it on c4, yeah. You can also try that. But also very interesting, this is a move that I liked here, is d4. We have been sacrificing all the pawns.
Okay.
The fun thing is that we're taking them all back. We're not going to lose.
No.
Because we go rook d8, no? And bishop f6 and everything. Well, let's say they take, just rook d8.
And then we get rid of our weak.
Of our weak pawn, yeah. And then we are going to play against the pawn on a3 that's weak. Okay, might be very equal because white will put pressure on b7, of course. We also have this pawn, but white still needs to castle and finish getting the pieces out. Again, very comfortable position for black. Should be about equal.
Yeah.
Nothing more than that. Okay, so now that I've showed you the c5 idea and how you get the isolated pawn and you get a good version of it, I can go back to bishop e7 and let's see where we were left. So here after bishop e7 we saw knight f4, we saw knight g3. So let's see what happens after pawn takes d5. We take back with the e pawn, and here white has two moves. g3 used to be a very popular line at that time when this game was played, and the idea is that white wants to play bishop g2, and later on, of course, after castling, they're going to go f3 and e4, and they want to get this nice center. And now you see that the knight on e2 is not awkward anymore. No, it has a purpose. Has a purpose in life. Defends d4 and helps the center. But the main line actually here is knight f4. And the idea of this move is that white still wants to fight for the center, but have his pieces a bit more aggressive. So how are they going to develop? The bishop is going to d3, they're going to castle, of course, and then f3, e4, and then the knight on f4 is, well, a nice knight, no longer a knight that's not doing anything. No? So how do we play against this? Here we do the same thing, we play c6.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We just want to have a strong center, no?
Yeah.
On bishop d3, we improve the rook, rook to e8, And always remember that the idea would be to bring the knight to e6. So here, knight to d7. You're actually going to see the same idea via a6. Let me just show this to you. Sometimes a5 is played. This is another way to play this, and bring the knight via a6, c7, and e6.
Okay.
So the knight is...
Get creative about how to get it there.
Basically, yes, but also try to fix white's pawn on the queen side. When you play a5, there's no b4 anymore. But let's see this one. Knight to d7. We want to play knight f8 and knight e6. They want to play f3. And we want to play knight f8. We are there.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, two moves, bishop c2 and bishop d2. Let's start with bishop d2. This was a very nice game. Knight e6. And now what to do with the knight? White, of course, doesn't want to take and develop your bishop, so knight e2. Another thing to remember, whenever they play f3, well, they're going to play e4, right? But until they do that, the pawn on e3 is a weakness.
Yeah.
And the pawn on e3, we want to attack. So how do we want to answer f3? This is like the Benoni, where you wanted to answer knight c4 with knight b6. Remember, that was something you need to have in mind. Here, f3, you want to answer with c5.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So whenever you see f3, this is like ring a bell and, oh, can I play c5? And open the position. And here you can, because your pieces are on the right squares. Now white goes bishop e1. We have seen this idea of transferring the bishop. Now it goes to f2. And here black simply plays a6 and starts developing the pieces. Rook c1, b5. And it looks very good for black. Now here
I like this position a lot.
I think I'm converting you to the Nimzo.
No, slow and steady.
Bishop f2 and get the bishop out.
Yeah. Well, now our bishop pair looks quite nice.
It looks better than his, no?
Yeah, I think so.
Bishop on f2 for now, at least. Knight to d4. Okay, get the rook out. Rook c8. Rook to the center. Queen d2. And now we need to do something with our pieces. And you pointed out that the square c4 was very important. So what do we do here? Now that you know this...
We find a way to put something on c4?
A knight, right? How do we bring a knight to c4?
To d7, to either e5 or b6, and then
finally c4. To c4, no? Yeah. Either way, and the final destination is c4.
Time in these positions.
I'm sorry?
I like that we have, it seems like we have a lot of time in these positions, like we can be patient and just be grouping our knights slow and steady.
Yes, that's because it's more solid and you can maneuver around.
Oh, and sorry, I didn't see somebody asking for rating. My rating is 1800 FIDE. My Blitz rating is a bit higher, and it has been improving a lot since I started getting coaching from Raluca, so that's very nice.
Yay! So happy to hear that. Okay, so let me show you some more of this game. This was a game played by Miguel Santos, a friend of mine. And here, he's a grandmaster, very strong player. So here after a4, he went b4. And he got a very nice position, knight e5. And the knight is coming to c4, well, and here, well, bishop b1, keep the bishop pair. And one idea that we have seen in the Benoni, actually, in the positions that we were looking at, a5, no?
Yeah.
And the idea was to open this bishop and have bishop a6 whenever we want it. Bishop a6, knight c4, everything is coming there. So I would say that the opening was a success, no, for black.
I always think it seems to be winning.
Until you have to play it.
It looks very, very good. Also, maybe there could be ideas about playing could you put the queen on g5? Maybe not yet, because of f4. But I just wanted to...
Attack e3?
It's not quite working.
You want knight f3. Okay, you're tricky.
Yeah, but it's not working because if I take... maybe it is working. If I could get 2 moves in a row, I could play queen g5 and then taking on d4.
Yeah,
then
it will work.
But f4 is probably just
That's
the
going
way.
to, yeah. Yeah, so Sophie wants to play this with the idea of taking twice and then taking on f3. But yeah, f4 looks like a bummer, no?
And somebody, I think, I don't know Spanish, but it looks like somebody is asking if you're Spanish, maybe?
No, I'm not Spanish, I'm Romanian and I speak 2 languages. I do answer the questions, but I just wanted to finish explaining this, so not interrupt the idea. But yes, I'm taking the questions. So here after a5, well, bishop a6 we saw. I don't think queen g5 because here your pieces are on the queen side, no? And you are playing on the queen side with black,
Yeah.
rather than on the king side. And this was bishop d2 in this position. After knight f8, and if bishop c2, knight e6 still.
Why do they play bishop c2? Do they want to play queen d3?
Queen d3 is an idea, but also we want to have the queen open, no? If we want to play e4, we are interested in having d4 defended. We cannot play e4 if this will be hanging. So that's why bishop c2.
Yeah.
And now knight e6 again, just in time. There's no e4, no? They have to take first if they want to play e4. Okay, here they get e4. We take, and they get this nice center, and we have a couple of ideas. I can give you a few moments to think about them.
I don't like that.
You don't like the position with black anymore?
No, I don't like being black anymore. But maybe I'm just...
It's just an illusion because of the pawns, but...
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's like visually it doesn't look too nice, but maybe it's okay.
Okay.
Could we go for something like queen b6 and rook d8?
Yeah, but if you go queen b6, one thing you really need to see that is what white wants to do, because after they do this, queen d3 and e5, and that might be really annoying.
Yeah.
So queen b6, maybe I can first drive your queen away with knight a4 and play for queen d3.
I was also looking at bishop c4, but it seems a little, just to try to get the rook away from the f file, but maybe white can just stay in the f file with the rook, and then maybe even double the rooks. So I'm not sure if it's really just helping white.
You can actually play bishop c4, because bishop c4 and you're playing against queen d3, no? Bishop c4, but then you need to do something, and that something is to attack the center, which you can do with c5 again. Especially if there's a rook on f2, it might be even better. No?
Yeah.
So bishop c4 and fc5, that's one idea. There's also c5 right away here that we can play.
And we shouldn't be sad about d5 then?
No, because if they play d5, let me just go d5. Here we can go bishop g4.
Oh yeah, okay.
And we are in time. Nothing is happening. If queen d3, they want to play e5, but we have bishop d6.
Yeah.
And if they play e5, we are taking back with the bishop, and nothing is actually happening here. Rook f6. I have a bishop d4 check. You don't have rook f2 because I'm winning the queen after rook a1, rook e1. So if rook f2, there's a check here, no?
Yeah, that's true.
And when the king moves, now there are all kinds of ideas with the back rank. So I can take back on f6, and I'm safe. No, my king is safe, not getting mated.
Yeah, gonna walk away.
We're going to walk away, yes. Just with dignity.
Yeah.
With dignity and extra material, we're going to walk away from the king's side.
Low found bishop c4, which was also a playable move.
Yeah. Now bishop c4 is a nice idea there.
Yeah.
Okay, so c5 can also be tried besides bishop c4, and then there's this idea of going bishop g4. And the point is that I want my bishop to g6. So here I go here.
Okay.
And I'm just in time to have my bishop on g6 and my knight on d5. Solid, yeah? And now the pawn on d4 is...
not so bad just because white has two nice center pawns.
He does, but d4 is weak, by the way. So
yeah,
a little more space, but then I'm going to start doubling the d file and attack the pawn. c5 is still an idea, by the way. No? I can always play c5 and attack e5. And they can take here and queen f2. Okay, we defend. There's nothing wrong with defending our pawn. We go back there and then queen d7. Queen d7, just rook d8, attack here, c5. Not so bad anymore, eh?
No,
Please
it's
tell me
okay.
that you start liking black's position.
Yeah, and I think both the e pawn, the d pawn might be. I mean, white doesn't have any c pawn or f pawn, so.
Yeah, that's the problem. That this might be overextended. No? The center might be overextended, and you could be attacking them. They are not very solid. All right. So this was knight f4. Just to remind you, because we were seeing these long lines. This was
getting
knight
a
f4.
lot of lines here.
Sorry?
I'm getting a lot of lines here. I might have to review the session.
Yes, for sure. You need to save this and look at the lines. And g3 was the game.
Yeah.
Bishop g2,
which
f3
was
for...
the old way of playing, right?
Yeah, that was very popular at that time. And now we just get the knights out. We're going to put a pawn on c6. They're very similar, the ideas, no? Here, rook e8. And I want the same thing. I want to put a knight on f8 and follow up with knight e6.
Yeah.
Here, they played h3. But what if they play f3? Because if they want to play e4, why not play f3? What do we play here?
c5?
c5. We play c5, yes. Great. Okay, if they take on c5, we take with the bishop and then the pawn on e3, no?
Yeah.
Knight d4, but knight e5, and once again the pawn on c4, and this is good for black. If the pawn was on f2, this wouldn't be a problem. This would be really good for white. But the pawn is on f3 and e3 is weak, so this gives us very good play with black.
And could white here try to defend by playing b3?
Yeah, but that looks really bad, no? Another pawn on the third rank.
Yeah.
If I play b3, okay.
Maybe queen.
Weakening,
No.
weakening c3 also. Oh, I think we can just develop normally, like bishop d7.
Yeah.
Just play normally. Also, I might want to play this knight c6 at some point. I'm interested in opening the diagonal. Knight c6, get rid of this knight and put pressure on e3. It's just bishop d7. I think a very good position for black now.
Yeah, looks good.
Many interesting ideas here. Okay. What happens if they take on d5? Nobody is wondering about losing a pawn here.
Can we just take it and then take an e3?
So we take, and here we can take on e3. We can also play queen b6 and take it later on.
That's nicer. Then we can take the check.
And maybe get the knight in the meantime.
Yeah. Also that.
So I see there's a question about playing b4 in this position. Let me just go back for 1 second here. b4, I'm not going to take on d4. That's not my plan here. I want to keep my bishop and play bishop b6. yeah, you get the bishop out, but then knight c4 is still a threat, and if without the bishop on c1, the pawn on e3 is even weaker. And bishop b2, by the way, loses a pawn, right? Because that's a double attack. And if something like knight, can you see the board?
My board?
Yeah. Can you see the move
now?
Okay.
Now I have it, yeah.
And if something like knight a4, if you just harass my bishop, I'm not going to give it up. I think I can go bishop c7. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to play knight c4, bishop on d7, rook on c8. Yeah, just maybe a5 also at some point. Why not? And if there's a pawn on b4, I have another rupture here. Okay, but let me just show you the game here. Rook e8, h3. And what do you do now? Of course, knight f8 almost automatically, yeah?
Yeah.
And this is a position where we are going to play on the king side. So there we can start getting a bit aggressive. And white will play on the queen side. And they usually play for the minority attack, because we have the majority of pawns here and they want to attack them, create a weakness, and eventually win one pawn. So they go b4 with the idea of b5. While black goes a6. It's not a forced move, but it's a pretty standard one, just to stop b5 for now and force white to prepare it with a4. Which is, by the way, not possible now, no? Because b4 is hanging.
Yeah.
So here knight f4 and knight g6. And knight on f4 is a bit annoying, so I don't want it. I don't want it there. Okay, now he takes, pawn takes. And what I'm going to do here with black is get my bishop out, maybe bishop f5, and why not something like g5, g4. Try to open up the king side. And queen on d7. Slowly push the pawns on the king side.
Yeah, maybe get some rooks in the h line.
I'd like that. No, play g6 maybe. That's actually a very nice idea. Play this, king g7 and rook h8. That would be really nice. But here white goes g4. Now he stops our ideas, stops bishop f5, but it does give something in return. It gives the dark squares.
Yeah.
So we use them. Bishop d6 now. They go f3. Okay, what do we do now with black? Let's try to think here. They go f3. Of course they want to play e4, no? Obviously, that's what the idea is.
I'm just gonna check if anybody in the chat has something to offer. The Twitch chat is pretty much dead, so I'm just gonna look.
I see someone sleeping there, so it's probably the Nimzo is really boring, but...
Ah, okay. Well, sorry, Mr. President. But maybe in YouTube, people have ideas.
Come on, guys. What do we do here with black? How do we play this position?
I mean, I'm thinking about, because the black squares are very, as you just said, has been given up by white. Like just trying to like put a bishop on g3, but I'm not sure if it's really doing anything except being close to the white king, but that's not really a problem in itself.
There's a suggestion of g5.
G5. I only play Italian. G5, G5, A5 is also. I actually looked a little bit at A5, but I didn't really like if they could play B5 then. But maybe it's. Oh wait, B5 is. Yeah. I thought maybe B5 would be annoying.
So what happens on B5?
knight h7 is also being okay. So if we play a5,
That's
and
right.
then they play b5.
Yeah. You already have the answer, by the way.
Play c5 maybe.
Yep, that's right. So that's
Wow.
correct. A5, and you want to undermine with c5.
So we always want to go for c5 when they
If
play
you
f3.
can, of course, yeah. If you can do that, c5. No, but just look at this.
Yeah, it's right in counterattack queen side. That's a good point.
Just look at this. No, if b5, c5.
Yeah.
It's a very nice position. They don't want to take on c5 for sure, and then there's no attack on the queen side if I manage to play c5 in good conditions.
Yeah.
There was a suggestion of g5 also, but I think if g5, e4 is still not whatever. Sorry. If this is white's idea, probably against both knight h7 and g5, I can try e4. But no, a5, you are counterattacking here. They go rook b1, defend, take once. And what do we do now? How do we continue our attack?
We c5 is not working anymore.
No, c5 not working.
So
I see queen e7 in the Twitch chat.
queen e7. Yeah,
But how do you want to attack here? No, if you have the dark squares, you have this nice bishop on d6.
I would like to just.
Yeah.
Oh, we could. Can we play bishop c7 and queen d6?
Yeah, that's how we want to attack the dark squares, no?
Yeah.
That's like our dream. If they cannot play e4 in good conditions, that's what we have to pay attention to, e4 and e5. Then bishop c7 is going to be very strong. Bishop c7 and queen d6. So what happens after e4? Bishop c7 is the move. But what happens after e4? Why not e4? Isn't this like the same thing as before? Why didn't they play bishop c7 two moves earlier? How is this?
What happened to moves earlier?
Well, we played a5 instead of bishop c7.
It's a played a5 and we took and bishop there. So
wait. E4
here. So so the A file is open now. That's different.
Yes, the A file is open.
But it's not super useful right now, is it? I mean, we can't move the rook a whole lot upside that A file.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have there a suggestion of pawn takes e4. Okay, let's look further into that. It looks like the most forcing move. And they're going to take back, no? We need to make sure that we have something after f takes e4. Do we have something after f takes e4?
Is that position on the board now?
It's not. I'm just challenging you to
visualizing.
To visualize, yes.
So we take an e4, they take back with the f pawn.
And cute queen is suggesting bishop b6. That's right. Okay, we're going to make a full line here in between everybody. What happens if we defend with bishop e3 then?
Can I draw some arrows?
Okay, draw some arrows, fine.
Okay, so we're talking about take.
Bishop b6?
Bishop e6?
b6.
b6. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, so now we're threatening here, and then the question is what we do
if they defend.
Then, like this.
Yes, so we have the full line. We have rook a3 and it's solved. Oh, wait. What happens if queen d2 in there?
What?
I play queen d2 and I defend my knight. What do you think?
Queen d2. Then I
Okay, let me just help you out there. I take,
yeah.
takes, bishop b6, bishop e3. We saw up until here.
We can probably sacrifice it, no?
Who?
And take on d4.
Okay, tell me the full line and the right move order. I don't know what you are talking about.
So,
Okay.
so here we can take an e4 or we can take on c3. If I take on e4,
Okay.
then probably knight takes, rook takes, bishop takes, rook takes, e3,
Aha.
and bishop d4.
And you can do that without having to play rook e4, right? If they take with the knight in this moment,
Yeah, if they take with the knight, that's true. Then we just take the bishop and e3.
you simply
Right.
take on e3 and then there's bishop d4 coming.
And if they take with the bishop, then we take with the rook.
That's correct.
On e4, yeah.
Knight takes, and if bishop takes, that's when we have to take and take on e3 with the same bishop takes d4. Perfect.
Yeah.
So there we go. Some dynamics, some tactics here in the Nimzo.
It's good to see that also.
So bishop c7 and e4 is not working. The a file is very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Queen c2, and then we play queen d6. We want to play queen h2. Not so easy to stop. The only move to stop this threat now was f4.
Yeah.
And if you have to play f4, something must be wrong with your position here, no?
Yeah, because now e3 is
e3,
not.
but the diagonal still I can play g5 now in very good conditions again.
Okay, yeah.
So a very comfortable position for black.
Mm.
But he played knight to e2. And he said, okay, I'm defending g3 and you're going to only give me a check on h2 and I'm going to fly away. King f2, nothing is happening to me. So what do we do with black here?
Is it too slow to go for trying to double the rooks on probably the a file? Like putting bishop on d7, moving the rook to a7, and then doubling the rook. No, I think white could probably just move his bishop and then also put a rook in the a file.
Yeah, probably. But here you are playing on the king side, no? So
Still
let me just point you.
yeah. It would be nice if we could get a knight to c4. I know it's not playing on the king side, but it's attacking e3.
Yeah. But how about mating the king? Because if I can play queen h2 and bishop g3, that would be amazing, no? It's like made in a few moves.
Is there mate in a few moves?
I'm not going to tell you that. You're going to have to find a move here. So let's try to find something in between all the chats. How do we play? G5 now. G5 cannot be bad, but we do have something better.
I also have a lot of good ideas. Knight takes e4. Oh, I think that was earlier, g5. Queen h2 and bishop takes g4.
What do you think about that, Sophie? How do you like that idea?
I think it looks a little bit optimistic, but it sounds like you like it. So
okay, we'll have to calculate. No, let's see what are the lines.
Queen h2, king f2. The bishop, but probably bishop takes g4.
Yeah.
Something like h takes g4, and then then I don't know where to. I mean, if I then take with the knight, then f takes, and I think I'm sacrificing. I'm sacrificing both my knight and my bishop. Is there another thing I can do?
What other active moves do you have there? There's one more besides knight takes g4 that you have.
Just gonna cheat. Look at the chat.
So we are looking at this line, yes? Let's try to calculate this until the end. King f2. Sorry, bishop takes. And Sophie was looking at pawn takes g4. Yes, then we have queen h4. That's correct. That's the point.
Okay, that's the point. And then he cannot go back to g2 because then our bishop will go there.
To h2, yeah.
And
King g1, bishop check. No?
Yeah, and then bishop g3 and queen h2 mate.
So what happens if they take with the f pawn? That's the alternative. Let's say I go here, king here, I take, f takes.
I thought that wasn't as good, maybe because I could maybe put my knight to e4. Then he would have to take with the...
No. Can't take because the bishop is pinned, yeah?
And he doesn't want to take with the queen, so then he would have to put his king on e1, and then the bishop is hanging.
Correct.
Okay.
But the most precise order, because if we go queen f2 first, queen h2 first, sorry, we'll have to calculate one more move with queen h2 here. I think there's also rook h1. I don't know if it's anything, probably not. But that's one more move that we have to calculate. So we can simply change the move order and start with bishop takes g4.
Okay, yeah.
And the same thing happens. So let me just show the lines that we were calculating. If pawn takes, h takes, queen h2. And here we go. And this is the mate Sophie was mentioning, bishop g3 and queen h2.
Yeah.
And if instead of h takes, they take with the f pawn, there we go, check and check, and the bishop on g2 will be hanging in the end.
Yeah.
So, why didn't take on g4? He played queen c5. But this doesn't mean that we're going to trade queens, right?
No, we don't want to do that.
We want to mate it.
Yes.
With the king. So we want to play queen h2.
And take an h3. Yeah?
That's right. Now we want to take on g2. And if rook g1, well, here we have, I think, many ways to win. But I really like the way Unziger played here. This is a game between Torre and Unziger. And here he plays rook a2. Very funny how we include this piece, no? It's finally getting there. We want to win a piece here.
Yeah, or even just,
just take on e2 or take on g2 and then take on e2. I think both work.
Yeah,
or just some check on g3, right? Yeah. I think queen g3 is actually a big threat here. Queen g3 and queen f3, I'm really enjoying this idea.
Then we're using all the pins we have.
Yes, we have so many pins there, yeah.
Yeah.
So he plays rook b2, but this is still losing. He takes here, and then takes here, and queen h4, and white resigned here because he's losing a lot of material. He's going to be losing the pawn on e3 if king moves, rook takes e3. Yeah. That's a lot of material down, plus a very bad king. So there you go. We have a great mating attack here against the king in a very solid Nimzo. And this is just we started with the move 92 and we saw some ideas here, and we're going to be looking at other lines next week. What do you think, Sophie? How's the Nimzo?
Well, I think it's going to be really good for me to play something a little bit more solid and classic. But I really like there are also ideas where you can play on the king side and get in some tactics, and I really like the idea about being able to still have the theme of going c5, especially if they go for the f3 e4, then just pushing the c pawn.
Yeah, and attack e3. And this idea of knight f8, you also need to basically bring the knight on e6, just via
Yeah.
c7 or f8. But these are the two main ideas that we kept seeing and that were repeating throughout the game. So if there aren't any questions there, how about I'm going to see if there are any questions in the chat. But if there are no questions, I think we can finish for today. And okay, someone wants to try the Nimzo. I think yeah, that's a good idea. Nimzo is a very solid repertoire, lifetime repertoire, like the chessable ones. Okay. Oh well. So with this, we are going to be finished for today. Thank you very much, Sophie, and thank you very much to everybody in the chat who participated today to our lesson. And I will see you guys next week. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.